Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. We hope to meet soon. The landlord is talking to me again. It's been a year. I understand. I apologize that we haven't been open for a year. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, your existence. We try not to be disparate. We're Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. And welcome to another get together. God is going to shake everything. Why, when, other things like that. Let's discuss it today. Let's dig into Hebrews 12 right away. Our God is a consuming fire, and he's going to provide shaking. And so his comment is, see that you don't reject the one speaking. For if those did not escape who rejected him when he gave divine warning on earth, think how much less we will escape if we turn away from him when he warns from heaven. Even then his voice shook the earth. But now he has made this promise one more time in the end times. I will shake not only the earth, but heaven too. And this phrase, one more time, makes clear the things shaken are removed, since they are created things, so that the things not shaken may remain. Therefore, since we have received an unshakable kingdom, let us have grace through which we may offer service that will please God with reverence and fear, for indeed our God is a consuming fire. That's Hebrews 12. That's what we're expecting to see. And we're going to see the shaking. I'm doing the bassomatic there, which is like a blender. We're going to be in a blender at times. I try not to twist the Bible. I try to give you real prophecy then and now, and what's fake news. And you're noticing that I'm not talking about the prophets much anymore. I'm actually citing today the guys that I follow and am aware of. On the right hand side, I followed Jan Markell for many, many years. She kind of got me started on this, but then I realized she wasn't going to go any deeper. I like Bill Koenig down on the lower right hand side. I don't like many of the people on the upper right hand side. I think Jim Baker has personal problems, many deep salesman type problems. And some of the other characters are, well, actually, the Fall Brothers are pretty cool. They're filmers. And so, uh, sometimes we're looking for that thrill to be able to do a clickbait, and so I guess I don't follow a lot of those people. I don't follow Gary Stearman much anymore, or Hal Lindsey at all. I do follow the guys on the left-hand side. So John Haller, I just listened to him today. Doug Hamp, I like him. I like Scott Harwell. And Jacob Prasch is brash, but he is pretty good at summing up what's going on. So John Haller does like an hour or 2 hour or 3 hour. I mean, he goes on forever every Sunday. And I tend to get some good information out of him, and I get some good information out of Jacob Prasch. Not so much the other guys. I think they're so wed to the pre-trib rapture that they can't see the seals, which is what I talk about mostly. I don't do their types of prophecy updates because I talk about the seals. I'm really the only guy comparing the seals to the birth pangs. And I had a friend, well, actually, there's a top guy out there named Bill Cloud, and I asked him years ago about the seals, and he went, like seals. And so most people blow this off. They don't care about the seals. They could care less about seal 1 or 2 or 3. They have no idea that we're in seal 3 right now and that we're expecting seal 4. Seal 4 is horrific. Seal 5 is martyrdom. Seal 6 is burning figs in an earthquake, a great earthquake. They're all survivable. They look like the birth pangs of Matthew 24, and we'll go through those today. So they're very similar. The earthquakes are like Seal 6. The battles, wars are like Seal 2. So you're going to see the similarities. We've gone through many birth pangs since 2012. I argue that in 2012, that's when Seal 3 opened up. So we're really coming to almost the 10th year of that. So Pope Benedict resigned in 2012. Then they determined another pope, and then by 2013, Pope Francis took that position, and that third seal opened during the summer of 2012. 2014, 2015, we had the blood moon eclipses. Then Obama was predicted to be Gog. We had the Shemitah during 2016, the Jubilee during 2017. 2018, we thought tribulation was going to begin. Nothing happened. Obama went to Pergamum in 2019, and I thought that was going to kick it off. Then 2020 with COVID and lockdowns and Trump loses and other things going on, I figured that was the time. 2021, maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Now, I am watching very closely with Pope Francis going to Shinar, which is kind of a mystical kingdom near Babylon, and it's where the Uh, it would be where the mystics hang out in biblical times. And then we move into 2022 and 2023, and we just keep on moving through the end times. I'm arguing that the first seal is when Western civilization and freedoms failed. Then the other birth pangs, peace, war, Bush wars. You know, the Bush family started the wars, and they really kicked off Arab Spring, which is the second seal, east of Jerusalem. Then number three is basic foods, markets, famines. You're going to have all of these things shaking. So Western civilization is shaking right now, and all of our freedoms are shaking. Peace and war, it's shaking, okay? Basic foods are going up in price very quickly now in 2021. Markets are shaking. Famines are shaking people. Health and mental health and physical death are shaking people right now. That's the fourth seal. The saints, the believers, the people of faith are going to be martyred. That's the fifth seal. The pole shift, the earthquakes, the meteors, that's the sixth seal. So I'm arguing that specifically you're going to see church leaders fall. They're really falling. And Julie Royce does a nice job of chronicling how they're falling. Okay, it begins with the household of God. And so the judgment will begin with the household of God. So watch the church leaders, and you know where you are in terms of the end times. Peace. Well, people are saying peace and security, that sudden destruction will come. So you're going to see peace wane. As people are pushing hard for peace, you'll see sudden destruction come. That's 1 Thessalonians 5. Then sexuality. God created humankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. That's Genesis 1:27. Right away in Genesis, you're going to see issues with sexuality as we move forward. Those are part of the birth pangs. These are the shakings that are going on in your world today. Once again, I'm talking about the church leaders, that they're falling. So that's Ravi Zacharias. I love the man, and he fell. He was a fallen man. Carl Lentz, I have nothing to do with him, and that's Jerry Falwell's kid. And other leaders are falling left and right. James MacArthur, and he's trying to come back again. Or James MacDonald, John MacArthur, he's got some issues going on too, according to Julie Royce. And then you've got the earth signs going on. That's Mount Etna, which is biblical in its own way too. So keep that in mind. Mount Etna is blowing up. So I'm saying that Julie Royce is accurate on this, that already people are talking about 2021 as a time of reckoning for the evangelical church, but 2020 was a reckoning as well, with scandal after scandal rocking the evangelical community. So whenever you get a chance, search Julie Royce and look at her 2020 report. It's very interesting. So now let's move into the birth pangs. When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the Talmudim, the disciples, came to him privately, saying, "Tell us," they said, "when will these things happen? And what will be the sign that you are coming and that the Olam Hazeh, this world, is ending?" Yeshua replied, "Watch out. Don't let anyone fool you, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Messiah,' and they will lead many astray. And you will hear the noise of wars nearby and the news of wars far off. See to it that you don't become frightened. Such things, so it's fear. They're pushing fear right now. Don't fear the things that are occurring. Don't fear. God, I would fear God, but don't fear the things that are occurring. These things must happen, but the end is yet to come. Peoples will fight each other, nations will fight each other, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various parts of the world. And this is just the beginning of the birth pangs. So that's Matthew 24, 3 through 8. Complete Jewish Bible. David Stern wrote the Complete Jewish Bible, and here's his commentary on it. This is the Olivet Discourse because it's given on the Mount of Olives. It's found in the book of Matthew, and it's really its final teaching. I don't know why it's listed at chapter 24, but it's the final teaching of Yeshua before he goes to the cross and dies and resurrects. So here's from the Talmud that's very interesting about 7 years, the final 7 years. So Rabbi Yitzhak said to Rabbi Yochanan, it said, "In the generation when the son of David is to come, scholars will be few in number. As for others, their eyes will fail from sorrow and grief. There will be much trouble," and we're seeing that. "And evil decrees will be renewed." And we're seeing the evil decrees right now. And with each new evil coming quickly, even before the other is ended. And that is it. Literally, this first month of Biden in office and Europe being re-engaged, you're seeing evil decree after evil decree each day. And it's just interesting. So our rabbis taught that the following would happen during the 7 years at the end of which the Son of David is to come. In the first year, "I will cause it to rain upon one city and cause it to not rain upon another city." That's from Amos 4:7. In the second year, the arrows of hunger will be sent forth, food shortages and people being hungry. And in the third, there will be great famine, during which men, women, children, pious men, and saints will die, and hunger will cause the Torah to be forgotten by its Talmudim, the disciples. In the fourth, there will be surpluses of some things, but shortages of others. In the fifth, there will be great plenty. People will eat, drink, and rejoice, and the Torah will return to its Talmudim. In the sixth year, there will be sounds in the light of what follows, either rumors of war, compared to Matthew 24:6, and heavenly voices, or shofar blasts, okay, and that's from Matthew 8:2, according to Messiah's coming. In the seventh year, there will be wars, and at the end of the 7 years, the Son of David will come. So that's from Sanhedrin 97a. It's an intriguing look at the final 7 years. This period, with all its failing eyes, trouble, and evil decrees, is referred to generally in verses 8 and 21 as its 7-year duration, following indications in the book of Daniel. It is made explicit in the book of Revelation. He's citing Revelation 11. Hunger and famine appear in verse 7, death of saints in verses 9 and 10. The Torah has been forgotten by the students in verse 12, eating, drinking, and rejoicing in verses 37 through 39, the shofar in verse 31, the wars in 6 through 7. So Stern does an excellent job of citing these birth pangs, these shakings, so to speak. And the rabbis get it. They know these things are going to occur because they have verses that talk about it too. So this is more comment from Stern on Matthew 24, but I just want to cite you then, for peoples will fight against each other. You said nations, you saw that, nations and famines and earthquakes. He's saying it's ethnos. And it's ethnic groups. So watch for ethnic groups fighting against ethnic groups, as distinct from nations, which are basileia, which are kingdoms. Okay? And then verse 8, which was interesting, the beginning of the birth pangs. So Stern says the notion that the Messianic age will be ushered in with a series of convulsions in history, referred to as the birth pangs, is familiar in Rabbinic Judaism. It is. See the quotations of 1 and 14 and other examples. See chapter 11, The Pangs of the Times by Raphael Patai, the Messianic Text, New York of Owen Books, 1979. Compare Revelation 6 through 18, the Messianic age referred to as the period after Yeshua's second coming, see verse 30, when he will establish peace among all the nations and fulfill the prophecies of Isaiah 2, 1 through 4, which we'll read. So this is given by somebody else, but it's interesting. He's saying the 10 signs of the tribulation is near: deception, dissension, devastation, disease, disasters, death, disloyalty, yeah, delusion, defection, declaration. Okay, so that's from David Jeremiah. Interesting man. Here's another one. Signs of Jesus' return. Rise of false prophets and false teachings. 83% of the believers believe that. Love of many believers growing cold. 81%. Traditional morals becoming less accepted. Oh yeah. Wars and national conflicts. Disasters. Other natural disasters. The number of people abandoning their Christian faith. Wow, see all the numbers here? These are all above 63%. Famines at 70%. Anti-Semitism is 63%. And then none of these is 11. So this is just a Lifeway poll, and it's interesting to see what the responses were in terms of how close are we. These are the birth pangs. So let's look at some words and let's track this down in terms of Isaiah 2, which we talked about. The pride of man will be bowed down. The arrogance of men will be humiliated. When that day comes, that's B'yom Hahu. That's a big day. That's the day of the Lord. It's frequently used in Zechariah and other texts. When you see B'yom Hahu, that's that day. That day, Adonai alone will be exalted. The idols will be completely abolished. People will enter cracks in the rocks and holes in the ground and escape the terror of Adonai and his glorious majesty when he sets out to convulse. Now, the world is Eretz, this is Aratz, and it's convulsed. It's very interesting, guys, okay? And that's the sixth seal. On that day, B'yom Hahu again, a man will take hold of his idols of silver and idols of gold, which they made for themselves to worship, and fling them away to the moles and the bats. That sounds like Isaiah 66. Then they will enter the cracks in the rocks and the crevices, in the cliffs, to escape the terror of Adonai and his glorious majesty when he sets out to convulse, Haratz, again, the earth. And the earth is Eretz. So it's a play on words. It's Aratz, the Haaretz. And keep in mind, Eretz would be earth, which would be with an aleph, which is a silent letter, just like ayin is. But in this case, it would be a bull, and it's the earth and very safe and secure. And this is arat, which is convulse, which is shake, and it's with an ayin. And keep in mind that we have spiritual eyes, and so the ayin is the eye, and the value is 70, which is interesting. And the meaning is, to watch, know, and use your eyes, your spiritual eyes. Very interesting. So once again, Eretz is earth, or Aretz, you can say it that way too, it depends, but it's land. What I want you to see is the meaning to be firm, okay? Not shaken. The earth is not supposed to be shaken, but it will be in the end times. It's used everywhere. It's 2,504 times in the Bible. Now, the other word is H6206. It's only used 15 times, and it's Aratz, and it's with an ayin, and it's dread, hence to harass, and shake terribly. So it's interesting how you shake the earth. So it would be Arat ha-eretz. Very interesting how God does these word plays throughout the Bible. So more shake verses. Now this is a different word. This is ra'ash, which is H7493, and it's very common in the Bible. So Job talks about, can you make him afraid as a grasshopper? Isaiah 13:13. Now that's an eschatological chapter. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, in the day of his fierce anger, his off, okay. 14 is more about Satan, Isaiah 14:16. They will see that they shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble and did shake the kingdom? So that's talking about Satan and how he will shake the kingdoms, and then he'll cease when God conquers him and Yeshua returns. Isaiah 24 is definitely eschatological. And it shall come to pass that he who flees from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit, and he that cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare, for the windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth do shake. So that is exactly the same as the end of Revelation chapter 6, which is about the seals, and that's Isaiah 24, and we already read that before too, that you've got this fear in Isaiah chapter 2. So chapters 49 through 51 of Jeremiah are about the fall of Babylon, and the earth moved at the noise of their fall, and the cry of noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. 51 then, the land shall tremble in sorrow. Every purpose of the Lord shall be performed against Babylon, and make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant. Interesting. Okay, here's Ezekiel 31. It's interesting, but it's not as good as Ezekiel 38, which is definitely end times. So that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. Now this is interesting. This is Joel, my namesake. Joel 2:10, the earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Joel 3:16, the Lord shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake, and the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. Amos 9:1, eschatological. And I saw the Lord standing upon the altar, and he said, smite the lintel of the door and the posts that may shake, and cut them in the head, all of them, and I will slay the last of them with the sword. He that fleeth of them shall not flee away, and he that escapeth of them shall not be delivered. Nahum 1:5, the mountains shall quake at him, the hills melt, the earth is burned at his presence, yea, the world, and all that dwell therein. Haggai, a couple of them from there, 6 and 7. So 2, 6, and 7. And thus saith the Lord of hosts, yet once, a little while, and I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all the nations, and the desire of the nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith the Lord of hosts. And then Haggai 2:21 at the end here, speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Yehuda, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. Interesting verses. Now, this doesn't say the word shake like you would normally see it, but this is interesting because it's Isaiah 24:20 and 21. And so the Lord shall shake the earth like a drunkard, and it shall totter like a hut. and it shall be heavy upon it, the transgression, that's pasha, that would be rebellious sins, and it will fall and not again rise. And that's like kuma Adonai, that would be rising. So yes, and it shall come on that day, Bayom Hahu. Remember how we talked about it? You can see it there. Bayom Hahu, okay? And here, I'll just highlight it, and you can see Bayom Hahu, okay? And I will punish, God will punish on the host, the Zava, the exalted ones on high. It doesn't say heaven. It says watchers, I believe. Zava, the host, the exalted ones, and on high. Barom or Hamarom, Bamarom. So Hamarom, Bamarom. And what he's saying there is that they're on a higher level than us on the earth here down below. They are just above our heads, probably the top of Mount Hermon, up to maybe the moon. Okay? And so he's going to punish those hosts, those watchers, those powers. I want you to view it that way, because we're going to see that in the New Testament in just a moment here. So he's going to destroy those, punish those and destroy those, and the kings on the earth. Okay? So not only the kings on the earth, but also these powers that are in the Marom, this area just above our heads and just around the area of the moon. Okay? So now let's see this in Matthew, and you can see it again. But immediately following the trouble of those times, the sun will grow dark, the moon will stop shining, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers, the watchers in heaven, so those are the watcher angels that fell, in the Marom, I argue, will be shaken. It doesn't necessarily translate because it's, um, Hebrew to Greek, but it seems to make sense that that's the Marom that he's talking about. And there it is in Mark, the same exact phraseology, and here it is in Luke down below. There will appear signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on earth. Nations will be in anxiety and bewilderment at the sound and surge of the sea, as people faint with fear at the prospect of what is overtaking the world. For the powers, the watchers, I'm arguing, in heaven, the Marom, will be shaken, and they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud. So that's Luke 21. So it's interesting, the Synoptic Gospels all match up with the same concept. And I'm arguing that the powers are the Zava, which are the watchers in the Marom. Here's a couple more verses. They're very interesting in terms of shaking and that fierce day. And it's from Zephaniah 2 and Isaiah 26. So gather together, and really it's shaking, but to hide us from the shaking. So let's talk about it. Gather together, gather yourselves, nation devoid of shame, before the decree takes effect, and the day comes when one passes like chaff, before Adonai's fierce anger comes on you, before the day of Adonai's anger comes on you. Seek Adonai, all you humble in the land. You who exercises justice, seek righteousness, seek humility, that you might be hidden. That's the word Esther. Yeah, like Queen Esther. Her real name is Hadassah. On the day of Adonai's anger. Okay, do you see? It's very similar to the shaking time frames, but that you might be hidden during that time frame. Come, my people, enter your rooms, shut the doors behind you, hide yourselves for a little while until the wrath is past. For see, Adonai emerges from his place to punish those on earth for their willful sin. Then the earth will reveal the blood shed in it and no longer conceal its slain. Very interesting how these days of shakings, the days of judgment, the days of Af, which would be anger, wrath, you can be hidden during that time frame. And those are two strong verses to prove that out. So I believe that we're in the birth pangs right now. We're literally getting ready for Seal 4. We'll go into the tribulation at some point in time. We will go into the Great Tribulation after that. We are not in the final 7 years. We are just moving along through the birth pangs. And God is shaking the world right now. So we're noticing that as we move through the seals. The next event that's coming up is going to be Pope Francis. He's going to Iraq. That's March 5th through the 8th. It's going to be very interesting. Why would a man that's concerned about faith go to a multi-faith gathering? And those people do not believe in our God and our Yeshua, in the case of Jews, say. But then it's going to be at a ziggurat. And that is like saying Babel. That is like saying Nimrod. That is very bizarre, people. And even Roman Catholics, so I say this every single time, I love Roman Catholics. I disagree with their Pope, and they disagree with their Pope. There are many that question why he would do this. And so many are saying it's not even a good idea because of illnesses, potential illnesses. So what are you going to do? if Yeshua returns shortly? Well, you're going to need to have clean garments. It's a wedding, people. You better show up with the clean garments or you're going to be kicked out. And that means faith, and that means that you have to persevere in your faith through the bad times. So that should be the end of it. And thank you very much for your time, and be blessed as we go into this interesting time of the Pope moving on into Iraq for this weird time frame. Keep in mind, read Daniel 10 during this time, because there are those 3 weeks that the angel Gabriel can't deliver the message to Daniel, and that's the time frame that the Pope is going to Iraq. So just be aware of it. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.